Making sense of AWS pricing is one of those critical steps in your cloud journey. Today, we are going to review the best tools for navigating AWS pricing and how to best understand the different AWS pricing components. Having this skill set is important because it will, number one, help you plan your cloud costs so your estimates will better match reality. Number two, allow you to understand which costs will scale with usage and which won't. And lastly, it will empower you with the knowledge to proactively avoid surprises and unexpected costs. Right now, there are four main ways to calculate costs in AWS. Number one is using the service pricing page. So, this is a manual lookup where you'll navigate to our public AWS pricing documentation. You'll look up the price and think of this as kind of the pen and pencil way of creating the calculations to understand it. Number two, you can use our AWS pricing calculator. This is a public webpage where you can go and get a guided experience to get a quote for the service that you're wanting to use, or even the combination of services. Number three is the Authenticated AWS pricing calculator. So this operates somewhat similarly to the public pricing calculator, except it can factor in your existing usage. It can also even incorporate potential discounts or commitment purchases and coverage. And then lastly, our MCP pricing server. So this is a publicly launched MCP pricing server that you can integrate into any of your existing tooling. You can use natural language that will do a live lookup against pricing and then give you an easy to read output. So let's get started. To help illustrate using each of these tools, we're going to use an example where we want to store 10,000 photos totaling 100 gigabytes on S3. In this example, you'll notice that I highlighted four of the critical components that we're going to need in bold. To use the service pricing page, we will first need to manually navigate using your browser to S3 pricing. On the S3 pricing page, we're going to be scrolling down and looking for the storage and requests section. So the first thing we want to look for is how much does it cost to store each gigabyte per month on S3 standard? Well, we'll notice here firstly that we're in the US East North Virginia region. Next, in our case, we're going to be within the first 50 terabytes of storage. If you're in a larger environment where you already have over 50 terabytes, then you may fall into one of these other tiered pricings. But in our case, it's going to be within the first 50 terabytes, so we'll notice that it is 0.023 per gigabyte. Let's take those and go back to our slide and perform our first calculation. So knowing that it's 0.023 times the 100 gigabytes that we're going to be storing, we now have $2.30 per month. And one could quickly assume, is that it? Are we done? Is that our only calculation? Well, there's one more component to it that's important. As you recall, we had 10,000 photos that we're going to be uploading. Well, uploading data into S3, depending on the flow, is generally no cost, so we don't have to factor in that. But of those 10,000 put requests, we do need to know the request cost. So as we scroll down here, we can see that so for put requests, for every 1,000 items, it's 0.005. So let's again take that number and go back to our slide and perform the second part of our calculation. So 10,000 put requests. And then what I did here was I took that 0.005 for every 1,000. So I took that and divided it by each other. So it could give me how much is that per request. Then that's multiplied by the 10,000 and we get 5 cents. That 0.5 cents is a one-time fee. And then that 100 gigabytes of photos that we're storing per month is going to be a recurring per month as long as we're storing that information out there. Now that we've done it the manual way, let's navigate over to our browser again and try the second way using the AWS pricing calculator. So here on the AWS pricing calculator page, we'll want to click the Create Estimate button. Once here, again, we want to pick the region that we're going to be using, which is North Virginia. And then we're going to want to search for the service that we want to get a pricing on, which is, in our case, S3. We see a list of potential matches for the service below. I'm going to go inside of S3 and hit Configure. Once in here, we can choose different options and even give this estimate a name if we'd like. And then we're going to scroll down and fill out the components of our cost. We're not going to have data transfer in this case, so I'm going to turn that off. And we're going to be storing 100 gigabytes of photos, if you recall. And then we're going to have 10,000 put requests to get that data out there. I can see already that it's showing me that the total cost is $2.35, which matches what we seen when we did our manual calculation. Next, we're going to navigate to the Authenticated pricing calculator. To get there, you'll need to be logged into your AWS console. You'll be able to click your account in the top right corner and go to Billing and Cost Management. Once you're on the Billing and Cost Management page, you'll want to scroll down till you'll see Pricing Calculator in the Budgets and Planning section. Once we've clicked on Pricing Calculator in that Budgets and Planning section, we're going to want to create a workload estimate. One thing to know here is that the rates will automatically only show before discount. If you're in a setup or going to be configuring something that needs those after discount options, if you click Settings in the top right corner, you can optionally enable after discount rates or after a discount and commitment rates and save those settings. But again, we're going to create a workload estimate. We're just going to call this S3, and we're going to do this as before discount pricing. Once we've done that, then we're going to need to go ahead and add in the services. So again, we could do historical usage from your account, but in this case, it's going to be new services since we're going to be uploading these photos. We could pick the account that we want it to go in. In this case, I just have one account here. And then again, we're also going to need to pick that region. So we can go through the list here and select Virginia. And then lastly, we need to pick and search for our service. Once we've picked our service, then we just need to add it to a usage group. This group is a way to group different costs together. I'm just going to put in a test name here to get us going to the next step. And then lastly, we just need to pick a template. So the template I'm going to pick is just S3 standard. Following our example, we're going to be storing 100 gigabytes of standard storage. And then we're going to have 10,000 of put requests. We're not going to have any S3 select, no get requests for the sake of this example, and no S3 select or other types of features. Let's go ahead and save these changes. Then we can see here a nice little summary in this table. We can see that we have the storage and the requests. And if I scroll to the right, I can see $2.30 is the storage and 5 cents is for the requests. And the last and most useful way of calculating the price is using an MCP server. With the MCP pricing server, you can embed the pricing tooling into your favorite IDE or AI editor, any tooling that really supports the addition of MCPs. On the screen, you'll see that I have Visual Studio enabled. To configure this, I've already added my AWS credentials, and then I've also installed the Q chat console. But this could easily also be done with Copilot or Claude or any other chatbot that you prefer. And then I've gone to the settings here and I added an MCP server for the pricing. Once those things are in, it will automatically do a lookup. So I'm going to go ahead and ask a question here. How much would it cost to store 10,000 photos in S3 standard, US East North Virginia, totaling 100 gigabytes? So I'm just putting that in just normal language and sending it to the chatbot. What you'll notice is that the chatbot will start dissecting the request into its various components, very similar to how we highlighted items on the slide previously. And then it's going to go out and take a series of steps like getting the pricing attributes. Basically, it's doing a live lookup on the various pricing components and what those are. And then as we go down, it takes those attributes and it gets the values for each of those in the pricing so that we understand how much these things will cost for each, say, gigabyte or request. And then with that information, it automatically does the calculation for us. So we can see it came to a similar conclusion, 0.023 per gigabyte. And for 100 gigabytes, that's $2.30 per month. But then it says additional considerations. So we know that the total to store it is just $2.30. But if we were to be putting those 10,000 objects, that one-time fee of 5 cents would apply. And then it also, just for convenience, gives us that the GET request, if we were to access any of those, would be this 0.0004 per 1,000. So in this very, very simplistic query, we didn't have to do any calculations ourselves. We didn't have to go even enter a lot of different information into checkboxes. It was right here for us, conveniently providing the output. Today, we took a quick pass through the different options that you have for getting and understanding pricing on AWS. As mentioned before, this is a critical step in your cloud journey to understanding not only what you're going to desire using in the future, but maybe even what you're using already. With some of this tooling, you can go through either manual methods, guided methods, or even automated methods using MCP. So if you're not already using one of these in your environment, I encourage you to give them a try and get started today.